pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are you trying to rush us, Maya? I said, are you trying to rush us? Roll call, John.
Rod. Here. Nicole.
Here.
Dave. Here. Carolyn.
Here.
Deb.
Here. Anybody have any comments? Or
Yeah, congratulations to you and Nicole on your re-election. At least we'll have some common sense on the board, maintain common sense. Then my other question, I have a question for the three amigos up there. Did you guys miss any campaign signs when you had out? Nothing swiped on you?
we had some.
Not that you know
I
of?
don't know, because
Or they blew away, I don't know.
yeah, there's some of them we found laying down in the ditch.
No, I'm just saying, were they gone? I mean, swiped.
I mean, we would have put them in.
Well, we'll call them McMillan miracles. We have 4 of them gone.
Not just one from the
It
wind.
happened
That
over,
sounds too.
oh, it did happen over here, across the street. Over there,
Yeah, on the west side.
yeah.
Anybody else?
Nice,
You can do whatever your little heart desires.
pass it out. Yeah, so my name is Ben Tanko with Lion Energy. The project manager, leading on the development for the wind energy project that's under development. I'm sure most of you heard about, commonly referred to as the Hub City project. About a month ago, as many of you are probably also aware, there was an info session put on by a group opposed to wind energy at the Heritage Barn. I attended that meeting, just wanted to hear what they had to say, what some of the comments and concerns were. A lot of things were said at that meeting, a lot of claims that I'm sure would stir up a lot of questions in the community as well as with the board here. So I was asked by some of the residents to come here just to be available for questions and answer anything you'd like to know more about. Kind of wanted to come tomorrow at the annual meeting, but I had a medical appointment, so came tonight instead. Just 2 things I just kind of wanted to address before just opening it up to any questions anyone would have. The first, it was said that the project is proposing to put 20 to 25 turbines in each town. If I had been told that and didn't have any other information, I too would think, wow, that's a lot of turbines. It's not the case. Our project is targeted for 100 megawatts. Right now we're looking at maybe 4.5 megawatt turbines. Maybe they'd be a little more, maybe a little less, but 100 megawatts, 4.5 megawatts of turbine. That's 22, maybe 23 turbines, depending if you round up or down, across the whole project. So
And that covers what, 5 townships?
theoretically, the footprint would be Town of Day, McMillan, Green Valley, Cleveland, and Oak Lane.
Okay.
Day is more the center, so you can figure that's pretty central. The other townships are more on the periphery. Nonetheless, as they were saying, 20 to 25 per town, that's 5 times more than is the reality. So I don't know if there's a fundamental misunderstanding with that group or what, but I just want to make that very clear. It's not 20 to 25 per town. The entire project is looking at 100 megawatts, so that number was project-wide. Second point was a big theme, is the shared revenue program. So that is a state program that compensates communities, local communities and counties that host electrical generation. That is a state program. It is not our discretion on what we would choose to do or not to do. We pay into that, and that is based on the project capacity. So if we build at 80 megawatts, that'd be what it's based on. If we build 100 megawatts, it's on 100 megawatts. It was said multiple times you can't count on that money because it's production-based, and who knows what the wind farm would do. It's not the case. It's fixed on the capacity. If we were to, for instance, have 10% curtailment one year and 6% one year, that does not affect the payment. That is a state program. It'd be no different if it was a natural gas plant or a coal plant, in the sense that there's payments for that electrical generation as well. The way that it's written, there's actually just more money, more dollars per megawatt for renewable energy. So those numbers that we're quoting are strictly from that statute and are fixed on the capacity. There's a lot of other stuff. I don't want to take too much time here, but I mean, those were two major themes that I was hearing that I wanted to kind of correct on the record now.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
The town would only receive money from the shared revenues?
Well, the shared revenue program, yes. A portion goes to the county, a portion goes to the hosting townships, based on capacity. So if more turbines were in the McMillan, you'd be getting proportionally more money. If less, you'd get proportionally less. We will engage each township if the project was moved forward. It's pretty early days, pretty speculative right now, but we've engaged joint development agreement discussions. So that would wrap in road use agreements, other sorts of provisions. So potentially we could work something out in there, but typically that fund is
The only compensation the town will get it from, huh?
the town, yeah.
Okay.
Lease payments, obviously, aren't to the town or to individual landowners, but
So in the three-ring binder, there was, how much did the county get?
the way it breaks down is about 3/5 goes to the county,
3/5.
and about 2/5 goes to the town level.
And that's split amongst all of them?
Split amongst all of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Wind, solar is a little different, where like often an entire solar farm would be, even if it's a couple hundred acres, that might just be all in one town. So that town's taking 100% of it. Wind, because it just kind of covers a larger area with, the turbines. You're across more towns, so you split based on where the turbines would actually end up being sited. So this that we printed out is just, I was trying to take notes on some of the major things that were said that we would disagree with, or just I thought maybe needed a little more information around that were kind of maybe briefly mentioned, but hot topics, things of concern. So I had, I think 25 extra copies here I was going to leave with you that if folks want tonight or tomorrow, was kind of the idea. And we have information on there to contact us. We welcome that at any time. Just talk with folks directly. But,
How many acres does McMillan have already?
I don't know that exact number. It was Wendy, I want to say, the other night. She pulled a lot of that from the Register of Deeds. She was pretty close, I think. For me, I haven't really been tracking it by town. Because at this stage, like the money, for instance, at the end of the day is based on turbine sited, not acreage signed. I would guess, I don't know, Ryan, if you know any more, but I would guess we have 1,000 to 1,500.
I'd say around 1,300 acres.
Yeah.
That's in total.
That's just in
That's
McMillan.
That make McMillan.
They had over
Equates to how many
3,000
turbines?
in days.
I'm sorry.
They had over 3,000 in day,
Yeah, I think she said like
Yeah.
3,400 or something
something like that, yeah.
And then maybe 500 to 1,000 in Green Valley. As far as turbines, that might be 0. That might be, I don't know. If I had 3 to 7, maybe be like a realistic number.
With the 1,300 roughly acres is what you're talking.
Yeah.
That'd probably be assuming more for signed up. But again, it's all speculative, and if nobody else signed up, then it'd be based off that acreage. You know, it kind of depends on who signs up in other towns, and you kind of, you know, you draw big maybe circles, the project area, and the way it just kind of organically develops as to where you have a lot of interest, you kind of maybe move in that direction, or maybe site more turbines. So it's a little bit speculative right now.
Another question.
Yeah.
Have you worked with development plans at all?
Yep.
Can you get me a copy,
Yeah, I can.
please?
There'll probably be, I'll have to start one for, over by Albert Lee, Minnesota, we have a wind farm that's late stage, but otherwise I'd probably have to get you one from one of our Iowa wind farms.
Okay, that's
Or
okay.
our Wisconsin wind farms. 15 years old, so
Yeah, we don't want that one.
a bit outdated. Yeah,
If you would, I'd like to see it,
yeah,
if at all possible.
yeah. I mean, could you, road use agreement example?
Mhm.
Assuming, that's a big piece of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the question on how many loads of concrete it takes for base, and that's based on bedrock and where that turbine is located, and how much rebar is put in it,
Yeah, I mean,
and ballpark.
I would say for those size turbines, it's probably like 700 yards.
Per turbine.
Yeah. 10 years ago, it was probably more like 500 yards. But those are also half the size, output-wise.
Yeah. We're talking 650 or 450, what height are we talking?
That depends on the manufacturer and the end eventual turbine, but I would say between 550 and 650 for the tip of the blade is pointing straight up. I'd say that's a pretty high confidence band, maybe between 550 and 650. The actual hub is more like 375, give or take. 50 feet on each side. I mean, depends on if it be a Vestas or GE, or, you know, there's different models and things, but yeah, those are pretty good numbers.
What about, and I know we addressed it here a little bit about stray voltage.
Yeah, stray voltage. So state requires that anything that qualifies as a confined animal facility is within a half mile of a turbine. We would do pre and post testing.
That's
Two.
within a half mile of a CAFOs? What about
Any CAFO
smaller-
within a half mile of a turbine.
What about smaller farms?
That wouldn't qualify for that.
Really?
Well, it would be anybody with animals, right, that's contained, so if they're fenced in animals, it's fenced in animals, right? Doesn't matter if there's 5 or 10 or 1,000, right?
If they're fenced in?
Yep.
No, that wouldn't make a difference. So we have 6 ag reps that all they do all day, every day is straight voltage. And you can request now us to come by and we'll do straight voltage testing.
I'd be interested in that because I had it in the 80s, and we were on the end of the line,
Mhm.
and it wasn't until Alliant Energy put a lot of ground rods in that it was alleviated.
Yeah, so,
Or you put a, where you,
a substation,
no, it's where you draw all the,
the ground grid?
draw all the straight voltage to one point. Isolator?
Yeah. I'm a civil engineer by background, not electrical, so don't get on my depth here.
I'm just
but-
asking the question, but,
So-
so I'm just wondering,
Yeah, I mean, we're the utility, so, I mean, we deal with it every day. We have the people, that's their job every day, so it's not something we shy away from. It's, can get kind of contentious. Stray voltage is primarily a distribution grid problem, so like, these lines feeding businesses and houses, that's that more of a phenomenon. This project is connected directly to the transmission grid. We just plugged in 12 utility scale solar sites in the last 2 years, and we had to do a whole bunch of stray voltage testing for those. Electrically connected in the same way. We had 0 problems, pre and post testing. I know it's a little bit of a nebulous kind of complex topic. We're not concerned about it at all, and we'll do the testing to show that. I typically try to set up anybody, I've done it already, with some people that have concerns about stray voltage. I set them up with our ag rep for the area so they can talk, because it's not my forte.
So you won't be using the existing lines, everything will be new lines put in there?
No, so the turbines will be connected with underground cable that connect 6 or 7 turbines, and then those all in a string, and then those run back to a project collector substation that just jumps the voltage up to transmission, and then it just goes onto the transmission grid. So this distribution lines, I don't think we serve right here. I think maybe about a half mile east is Alliant territory.
That's right.
Yeah, so it doesn't have it, we won't have it, it will not be connected or have any distribution. This is probably 12.4 kV. It's not connected to that at all.
So you guys, none of the system would be in if they're served by Marshfield Electric?
No.
They won't have to worry about the windmills going up in their area? You're strictly in Alliance territory?
No, so it's, part of it is, you get into Day, we serve all of Day, or Zelda, all that, so that's our service territory, but it is a bit independent from the wind farm, because the wind farm is just connected to the transmission lines, which ATC owns, so we don't operate those. We got out of the transmission business, I don't know, maybe it was 5-10 years ago, so it doesn't necessarily, it's not connected to whoever the service provider is in the area. We're electrically isolated from that. It'll hit the transmission grid, that power might hit the grid and it'll come right back down to Marshfield's, one of their subs, to, then hit the distribution grid. Or it might go on our, we might pull it into our sub. Just the 2 different electrical systems, so.
Anybody have any
So you
questions?
pretty much answered my question. You see a clock tower up here, you have to run that down the transmission line and tap it in, right, underground?
The whole entire farm would feed to one substation that's built, that's just dedicated just for the wind farm. Bring it in, hits the transformer, jumps it to, in this case, 115 kV, and onto the T-line, the existing T-line. So, which runs, would be just west of here, running southwest, northeast, kind of runs towards Stratford, along the railroad.
Well, which power company benefits from this? I mean, who gets the electricity?
So Line Energy, it feeds into our generation portfolio.
So what does that consist of, the Alliance you said? Where is it? What is the power in it?
Also, how it kind of all works. We have,
Is it like one outfit down by Milwaukee or down by Madison, or is it, what is it?
Line Energy?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I glossed over that a bit. So we're a regulated electric and gas provider in Wisconsin and Iowa.
Okay.
So our service territory is, spotty. There's a lot of co-ops and munis all over that break it up. But, we're over all the way into Grant County by Potosi and that, and then we kind of go up, Boston, Toma area, and then we kind of keep cutting northeast to all the way to just, town of Day is actually right at the peak.
So nobody in this whole area would benefit from this at all, right? Am I correct? From the electricity?
No, well, I guess.
I'm just curious.
Our service territory is over in the town of Day. Regardless of where the wind farm was, if it could be up in northern Wisconsin and Excel land, it's still going to hit the transmission grid. It still counts as Alliant Energy's portfolio. We have, our big coal plant We put that on the transmission grid, and there's a wholesale market where people buy and sell power. It might come down to our subs, or there might be a super cold spell going on in the UP, and they might be taking a whole lot of power. So you're sending power, and they pull it down over there. But either way, we balance it out on our net generation.
Okay, when you do these transmission lines, what does that consist of? Is that you bury them, is what you said? Is that right or no? Or do you hook into a power pole and run it that way?
Between the turbines, that's all
Yeah,
underground.
whatever, the electricity that comes off of a turbine.
Yep.
Okay, it's gotta go somewhere, right?
Yep.
How does it get where it's gotta get?
There's underground collector lines connecting
How big are
string
they?
of turbines.
I'm just curious.
Like
Like
voltage.
this?
Nice.
I mean, it's like 1,000 kC mil, so they got their conductors with a whole bunch of insulate. Yeah, I don't know. Like
Okay, so then from each, well, I'm gonna call it windmill, I don't like the word turbine. Okay, each windmill has to have a power source to leave, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious about that. Okay, then one other question is, there'll be a lot of road damage when these get put in. Who ponies up for that? Because you got all the cement coming in, and the cement trucks are gonna pound the piss out of these roads. You got shit for roads anyhow, but they're ours. So who ponies up for that?
Yeah, so we do that. Sometimes it makes sense for us to upgrade the roads before. Sometimes it makes sense to do it after the project. Sometimes you do a whole lot of maintenance during the project. Every project's a little different.
I got a road that you can upgrade, Roman Road.
So we do a lot. We have a lot of wind farms in Iowa, and Iowa's chock full of a lot of gravel roads. So that's not anything new to us. I'll happily set up you with the county engineer from any of those counties that can tell you how we did about any damage we caused, maintaining that during construction, and the condition that we took the roads to afterwards, which often is much better than we found, because you can't exactly just Band-Aid the road, right? You usually got to kind of
Okay, let me ask you this.
fade it out.
If a road gets damaged, from all this bullshit that you're doing, how hard is it to get compensation or get it fixed or whatever the case may be from your company? Is it very tough or no?
For us, I mean, we're a utility in Wisconsin. We've been around for 100 years. We'll be here another 100 years. We're regulated. It's designed not to fail. We're not just building this and going somewhere, leaving town and going. We'll build it, own it, operate it, set up a local, we'll build a little building for an O&M center with a couple wind turbine techs and people. So, we don't like bad press back on us. We're really sensitive to that. So we stand behind and go what we think is above and beyond, because we're not going anywhere. These are the communities we serve or will be in for a long time to come.
So you won't be using any of your existing staff, you'll be adding staff? Because you're already in this area understaffed. I mean,
Yeah, honestly, it's a lot of different business. All the line techs and the distribution stuff. That's operation of our grid. That's different than our generation staff and O&M folks.
well, the grid primarily is what the people are going to be worried about here. They're going to be worried about lines going bad or pumping energy into the ground or whatever. I mean, if the windmill's making power, nobody here is really going to care. I mean, if it's down for a few days, but if the power goes across the road and gets heaved up and now it's charging a culvert, I mean, that's where we're going to care deeply, because I mean, that's the emergency stuff to get things taken care of so people can drive over the road again.
Mhm.
And that's just why I'm wondering what your staffing levels for that are going to be. Because right now you're like 45 minutes away with the closest truck to do anything for us.
Yeah, I mean, we have an op center in Rapids, but frankly, day in that substation, it's at the extent, like the terminal end of our service territory. So unfortunately, that is what that is to, if you were at the center of our service territory, not on a terminal line, or terminal sub, that would all be different. That really is pretty independent from our wind farm. I mean, different staff, Again, we'll build a little O&M building, we'll have a supervisor, I don't know, maybe 3 techs that just work at the wind farm all day, every day. So, yeah, it's just different groups.
How deep is the transmission line going through the distribution line?
The underground lines we buried, 4 feet.
So you're still not across level, you're still in boss level.
Not by code, I mean, depends on what kind of soils you have and what kind of winters you
Yeah,
have.
we won't split hairs there, I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Minneapolis for a while, so did geotechnical soil stuff. Sometimes never got 1 foot some years, but yeah, you could have a really deep freeze, but it's bedded in sand, so it's not a concern for us.
From your expertise, when is the soonest this is gonna get going?
Right now I'm saying like 2030, give or take a year or 2. I mean, I would be hard pressed to see that moving forward 2 years. The transmission grid, the studies they do, everything is just so delayed by years. They need to build, transmission systems kind of old and needs to be built out. And there's all these data centers and new generation coming online, and it's a bit of a mess. So it's making things moving slow.
So what do you guys do first? You put the windmill up first and then run the line, or do you run the line first, or at the same time? I'm just curious.
So it just depends how they sequence. It's different crews, right? I mean, you get your people out there, trenching in the lines. They're the ones they're not the iron workers tying bar on the foundation and pouring the concrete, which is different than the erection crew that's got the crane actually stacking sections. So some places it might be ahead, some places it might be behind. That's just construction sequencing.
So do you stay within the road right away, or do you cross private line when you connect the turbines?
Would likely, we'll do that all on private easements. Are you talking like eminent domain stuff, or are you just talking about using the right of way in the road, along the road?
Either, what is the shortest distance between 2 points? You got turbine here and one here, you just connect them up, shortest distance between two points?
Yeah, so we go for voluntary agreements. We've never used eminent domain before. Certainly not renewables. Don't quote me on ever in Alliance history, but nothing with renewable generation projects. There was, I can't think of a time we've buried in the road right of way, but I'm sure we probably have for short distances if it came to that. But that's after a long effort to all voluntary easements across
So
people's land.
that means litigation?
No.
No?
What do you,
Well, if you use eminent domain, you're gonna have to go to court, right?
we do, no, I said we don't. We never have used eminent domain
Okay.
on siting renewable energy projects. So that's more, a lot of that stuff gets kind of bad. Transmission companies, they often go right to eminent domain on those T-lines. And people kind of blend the two of what, a utility or ATC or folks might be doing. That's where you get a lot of that.
That's why I asked the question.
Oh, yeah. I know a number of T-lines, you'll see signs all around, they went eminent domain, but.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to respond for George, just an opinion I had. I own property on Galvin. It's supplied by Marshall Utilities. My family owns property on Drake. It's supplied by Alliant Energy. The main thing there is when you're going to have this power being put back out, 22 turbines, if I'm correct, ballpark will supply energy to 35,000 homes in the area. It's going to get from these turbines underground, connect to the transmission line, and theoretically, if I'm correct, Marshall Utilities would be down for whatever reason. I, at my house, might be getting power from these turbines because they have that energy coming to the grid. And if I'm also right, I'm not an electrical engineer either, but it sounds like electricity goes to the path of least resistance, the quickest home from the transmission, quickest spot from its source to your house. But if it can supply 35,000 homes in the general area, it would be more reasonable to assume that this is going to provide the power for the general area to 35,000 homes. Is that the
30,000.
30,000 homes in there?
About 300 homes a megawatt.
So it's very possible, George, even where you're at, that you would get power from these, even though you're likely on Marshfield Utility. Yeah, so it's, but they'll, if there's like a shared agreement, once it hits the power line, it just goes to whoever needs it. If one is down, everybody's helping each other, but the line gets paid, if I'm right, by putting power out of the grid. If you're not putting power on the grid, then you're paying to get it off of it, that particular utility that you built. But I just wanted to mention that the line is 2 miles to the east here, providing power to my family's properties.
Well, I have an agreement with Marshfield, we don't run out of power ever, so.
I love that.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that there'd be about 7 per, connected about 7 towers to one of your lines. Do they have to be close together, those 7 towers? Or are they all spread out throughout the whole community? And you said you only have like 7, you said about 20 for within the 5 townships? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so if it ended up being exactly a 4.5 megawatt turbine, that's 22 to 23, doesn't need to round up or down, gets you to 100 megawatts. It's basically as simple as that. As far as which ones are put on a string, that's way late in the design where you actually, had certain locations, you just kind of, you look at it and get with the construction engineering team, and also where you have easements and where you don't. Sometimes you may have to go a little longer route because people didn't want to participate. Okay, well then you stay in the land of those that participated. If it's a nice, lovely, straight shot, then you take the fastest route back. But each line can hold like 25 to 30 megawatts, so that's where I'm getting that 7-ish
And
turbines per
if
string.
these are going to be 650 feet, how much do those produce?
Those turbines?
Yes.
About 4.5 megawatts is that's just kind of where the industry's at for, 3, 4, or 5 years in advance.
And it won't affect our electricity bills going up? You should only see them go down?
I don't know if you'll ever see your electric bill go down. I'll give you the straight and narrow.
I've heard that there are a lot of times that they've increased, so I just didn't want that to happen.
Yeah, I'm an Alliant customer. I don't get any discount or anything being a regulated
That
utility.
really sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I held out hope when I first joined a while back, but the way the rate review works in Wisconsin, every 2 years, we just actually submitted for rate review. We're not immune to the inflation and everything going on right now and what's been going on for the last couple of years. We don't have a special way to just keep prices flat. New generation, when we build new generation, yes, those costs get rolled into the rate review typically, every 2-year cycle. Renewables aren't special. We're planning to build a whole lot of natural gas in Wisconsin. Same thing. You got to submit and then recover those costs over time. It's kind of like our coal plants are aging. They take a lot of money for O&M. Not even to get into like fuel costs and that volatility. You can keep riding that out, and then one day, you wish, well, we should have invested some money at this certain point, and now we're in a bad spot. So it's just all a rolling resource plan on how to keep balance O&M costs, fuel costs, added generation, reliability, efficiency, and it's just a kind of a rolling plan. So, kind of gets a bad name, kind of get hit with, renewables are adding to our bill. We're adding generation. It wouldn't matter if it was gas, nuclear. Nuclear's 5 times more expensive to put in. It's great once it's in, but you can't put in nuclear and not see it, that get rolled into rate reviews at some point as well. So I know that's not really a great answer, but I don't think electric bills will ever go down.
I'll say, coming back to Heidi's question, really, if you think of if a person can actually own and control their own generation of their power based on this turbine being here, at least they know what their costs are and what's going to be going forward. Where you don't have this control factor is on the cost of coal or whatever you have to buy to supply. Here, we have God given wind to create the power versus if you're buying in coal where the price could go up double, triple. We're buying from West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Where's it coming from? Well, I mean,
We
from
don't
private
have
places.
any coal in Wisconsin, nor do we have any gas, nor do we have any uranium, so, yeah, it's all out of state.
So we're at the mercy of paying for whatever the supplier will charge for it, versus here, we can be self-sufficient at least to the tune of 35,000 homes, or over 30,000 homes, or over 1,000 homes per one turbine. It can be supplying many square miles of homes power with a controlled cost, which is why, in case anybody had guessed, yes, I'm a big advocate for it. I'm a big fan of it, no pun intended.
Yeah, we'll never be running all solar and wind. We're increasing our natural gas, that's helping to replace coal, so there'll always be, for a long, probably a long life, that kind of baseline fuel source there. But there is a balance of having, I don't know, 20%, 30%, I don't know what, who knows exactly what the number is, of these renewable sources where you're not paying for fuel costs, that you have this steady projection. And that's the goal. The goal is not to turn our entire grid into solar and wind, and we're far, far, far from that.
How much is a landowner make per turbine? Month, year?
It's about a year, so probably like 27,000. Depending on the size of the turbine, but that'd be about approximate. Anyway, and then there's an escalator. I mean, like all costs that go up, so do lease payments each year. And then if you don't have a turbine, there's also an acreage payment where you just get it, even though your land may not be touched. For participating, you just get an acreage payment. So, yeah.
And the turbine payment, if you have a turbine, it's not based on the amount of power it produces. If it's up and it's turned one time, you get paid that for the life of the contract while the turbine's out in the field. It's not based on if it's, oh, you only made 80% of the power possible. It's if it turns one time, you get paid. So it's not based on production of power from each turbine.
I think we need to wind it down. Your 3 minutes are up.
That's fair, yes, all right.
I do have one question.
Questions?
With what he had brought up there was for the life of the turbine, I guess, what is the provision to decommission these turbines? Because I've heard that it's fairly expensive to do so. And from what it seems like is you guys are going to be the owner, not the property owner. So we can't go after, as a town board, we can't go after the property owner to get rid of this thing. It's going to be on you guys, right? And is there anything that's put out there, money put aside for the demolition or the recycling or whatever you want to call the decommissioning of these units? Or is it just, hopefully there's money in a pot later on when it goes to pot, or a tornado comes through and rips it up but doesn't take it down, just hurts it or breaks it?
Yeah, can't comment on what you can or can't do with a landowner. But decommissioning, we post a financial surety. Probably if everybody agreed to it with the JDAs, we'd maybe just do it with the county for the whole wind farm. But maybe it's at the town level, so whether it's a parent guarantee or a letter of credit or some sort of surety bond. We do a decommissioning plan, we submit that to the state with an application, third-party engineering estimates, and then we post that bond. So if we would ever cease to exist, which is pretty hard to do for really a monopoly, that money would be there to pay whoever you want to take it down. And it's about $100,000 a turbine. Well, it's about 200. Our estimates now are $220,000 a turbine to take down. But after you salvage all the steel, and a lot of tons of steel, it's got a lot of value, the net cost is about a little over about $100,000 a turbine.
All right, thank you.
Can I just leave these on the table?
Yeah, why don't you do that? Thank you. All right, let's move on to the approval of the town board minutes from March 10th.
I move to approve the town board meeting minutes from March 10th, 2025.
Can you get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, reports, Dorothy.
No meeting, no report. Lots of phone calls, but they're all hanging in there.
All right, highway, we've had a lot of complaints on the roads, obviously, time of year, plowing. Not much you can do about it. We'll get to it as soon as it dries out. So, is anybody, you got anything, Kurt?
Passion and blade every other day.
Living a dream, ain't it?
Yeah.
All right, library, Rod?
Question on
What?
roads. I'd like to have it put on the next agenda for me to get bids on chip sealing and culvert replacement. I'm making that as a motion.
You have a second?
Second, that's for discussion.
Motion to call for chip sealing, what?
For culvert replacement where needed and quotes for chip sealing on, there's 4 or 5 roads we talked about.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk to the highway committee too.
I've looked at some of them too, so.
Yeah. Well, why don't we discuss it with the highway committee before we have our next meeting, and then we can kind of go from there, if you'd like to be involved with that.
I would like to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Has the bridge on Galvin Avenue been posted with the new weight limit after the inspection?
I think the county takes care of that posting, don't they?
I don't believe so, I believe we do.
I thought they did over on Sod, didn't they?
I don't believe so. I believe that we may have gotten signs, but I believe Pat had done the actual.
Did they send the signs? What is it, John? Do you know what the posting is?
I haven't received anything.
The emergency vehicle single axle is 16 ton.
For on Galvin? Where's the paperwork for that one?
I received an email from the bridge inspector, which I'm assuming was forwarded to the clerk of the town sheriff.
I didn't get it.
I didn't get anything recently about bridges or.
No. You want to forward that to John and myself?
Yep, I can.
Okay.
While we're still on highways, I do have one more question. I understand that on the international, the dump box is in need of some repairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are we out looking to get a couple estimates on that? And I know that you have another plan also. I mean, just that there's several things, because right now is the soft time of the year where we're not really using the truck, so now it should be fixed so that come the summer when we have all of these other projects that we have a truck available instead of laying in the shop laid up.
And we've talked to Dewey, what's his last name? Dewey Roder, he does welding. So he's going to get back to us and we can put it on the agenda for next month and possibly hire him by the hour instead of taking it down to because it'd be a heck of a lot cheaper this way.
I'd still like to, for the time's sake of everything, I'm not against that or I'm going towards that avenue, but I'd also like to see it, take it in someplace and get 2 estimates on it, what it would take to get it
Well, go ahead.
cleaned up and taken care of.
Take it in, get 2 estimates. You know what's wrong with it.
Okay.
John, I just forwarded that to you and Deb.
Okay, so I believe that we have a motion on the floor currently to call for chip, my records are, motion to call for chip sealing.
No, motion is to put it on the agenda next month to call for chip sealing.
Right, motion to call for chip sealing and culvert replacement bids and quotes on the May meeting.
All in favor?
Bye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else? All right, library, Rod.
Nothing at this time.
Buildings and grounds, Nicole.
The windows were adjusted by Marshall Glass, so if you looked at the checks, we did receive an invoice and that will be paid in this month's, 5 of them. So I'm assuming it'll work out great. I walked in there, seems fine, so I'll watch it, make sure. There are 2 different baseball clubs using our field, starting in May, weather permitting. They are using it on Mondays and Thursdays. I did put it in our calendar. It's just for practices. There's not any tournaments or anything here. One club asked if they could use it for tournaments, and I said no, not at this time. So if we decide we want to do something different, we definitely can, but at this point, they're just using it for practice. They are aware that the outfield is holy, and we do need to add dirt back there, so they are fully aware of that. Also, Caleb, who had worked with us last summer, reached out and asked if he could help the township in May and June when he's available, and he did a really nice job on the ball diamond. So I told him he can work on the ball diamond when it gets better, because it's going to be used a lot in those months. Other than that, when the weather starts warming up, hopefully soon, I would like to start cleaning the windows at the pavilion, and then putting out new mulch or fluffing the bark, start getting things looking good for the area. I do see that there are some branches down. I'll have some people pick up those branches, but we're going to wait until after the windstorms go through, which seems to be windy every day. Other than that, that's all I have for updates.
Garbage and recycling day.
Once again, annual tire collection is the 26th, and it's from 8 until noon, new hours, 8 until noon. Most everybody's there before 8 o'clock in the morning. Only 8 auto or truck tires will be allowed to be dropped off at no fee. Anything beyond 8 is $8 per tire, and they have to be under a 1000 by 22.5. I've got red cards, you can use that, and or your license, because the gal that's head of the recycling, or secretary for recycling, will be taking names and cards if you got either one of them. One change in garbage pickup was contacted by Chad Kaler. The guys are going to be picking up on the 4th of July, because they want Saturday the 5th, I believe it is, off. So on your calendars, and put it on the website if you could, John.
Sure.
If you already haven't got it on there, because you and I talked about it. That'll be a day early, probably. I think that's, anybody have any problems with garbage or recycling? Had a number of carts busted again. We had one guy that was behind the waste management truck one day, and they set the cart off on McMillan Street, and the tires came off with it. And I called Chad, and he did answer me this time, so he said I could have that individual would have a new cart by the end of the week. So that's the quickest we've ever tried. We had requests for quite a few more that are either new residences or whatever, or replacements of ones that are damaged. So my name's in the book.
Policies and procedures, Carolyn.
Well, you've got newsletter, when is the next, there's been discussion about whether there's 1 or 2 per year.
We have one in the spring, one in the fall.
That's what I thought, but
Yeah.
somebody said, oh, no, there's only supposed to come out once.
No, we have one before the annual meeting and budget one
Yes,
before budget
exactly,
hearing.
so that's
Okay.
good, we're good there.
Unless you guys want to change it, I don't have to.
Oh, here, I did go backwards. And the policy and procedures, yes, indeed, we are going through them. Donna is going through them with us. We're redoing some of them, and I don't see any reason to bring them forth until we do get the whole thing done. So,
All right. Ordinances, motion.
I have no updates on ordinances.
Fire department.
Alright, call numbers from 31025 and 41125. We have 4 EMS calls, 1 mutual aid call, 1 false alarm. We have 1 individual taking entry level fire 1. We have 1 individual finishing entry level fire 1 and hazmat. We completed the capital credit union grant. Our station was staffed with 4 personnel during the last 2 winter storms. EMS, the group received $18,633.80 from the Funding Assistance Program from DHS. $2,398.08 must be placed in the EMS training expense account. The remaining $16,235.72, the fire department members have voted to place in the vehicle replacement fund for vehicle 8. The group has also voted to purchase a stair chair for the lift assist that we do. This will be purchased with some donation money and money from the EMS supply line item. Community education, April is National Volunteer Month. See our Facebook page for more information. On fundraising, we've been continuing to work on planning for the next fall festival.
Any questions for Adam? Okay. Clerk's report, John.
Let's see, so we received the reimbursement for man in the amount of $591,973.16. We had another successful election and got all the winners sworn in. I plan on submitting the innovation planning grant by the end of the month in April. I plan on requesting the full $100,000. I plan on submitting to explore the consolidation of fire and or EMS services. I would be seeking to contract with, if we were awarded the grant, so when I write the proposal, I'm going to be telling them that I'm seeking to contract with one of 3 entities in the region that specialize in fire and EMS consolidation. The innovation grant must transfer one or more allowable services or duties from a municipality to another entity. And those services or duties are as follows: public safety, fire, EMS, training, communications, information technology, administration, including payroll and human resources, economic development, public health, parks and rec. So I felt like the fire and the EMS were the ones that made the most sense, because to be eligible you have to have a projected savings of at least 10% of the total cost to do either of those services. So I don't feel like we have any expenditures in public health or economic development. IT is...
Find 10% savings.
Yeah, IT is super low. I'm not even quite sure what we can offload. I think that's probably for bigger places like, if they have an IT department, if they either farm it out to a private company or something like that. So I looked at some of the other innovation planning grants, and that's kind of where I found these 3 consultants. I was having a hard time figuring out who am I even gonna, who does this kind of thing? Like whose job is it to figure out how to consolidate fire departments or EMS? So I figure if we get it, the reason I'm asking for the full $100,000 is I don't know what it's going to cost. I don't know what it's going to take. I just don't know. But there's no risk in us getting $100,000, spending 30, and then returning 70. So, and then just kind of telling them where we're at, and then letting them cook, let them do their thing. They can come back to the report saying, oh, it makes sense for you to explore consolidating here and here, or it doesn't make sense at all, whatever. So, and it seems like there's no risk to the town at all, because we're getting $100,000 in grant money. So, that's the plan or the update for the innovation planning grant.
So who makes the decision that once you get the grant, and if you save money, who decides? Is that
The town board would decide, yeah. So let's say that the consultant says, oh, you guys should, it doesn't make sense to consolidate fire departments, but you guys should consolidate, because of your location and your proximity to the city of Marshfield, you guys should consolidate with 3 other towns to provide EMS service. Then the board says, okay, that sounds like a great idea. Let's negotiate with other towns, whatever, stuff like that. From my understanding, this is just the planning stage, just a checking it out, see what's going on. There's no obligation for us to take another step after getting the results from this planning grant. So I think
come in and make the recommendation, and we do with it whatever we decide to do with it.
Yeah, so I think it's zero downside and potential upside. So it makes sense to move forward with it. I'm not going to be submitting it until probably, the end is like April 30th, so I'll be doing it I'll submit that last week. So if you have any other ideas that you want me to toss in there, let me know. Like I said, public safety, fire, EMS training, you know, but like I said, the fire and the EMS were the ones that stuck out the most as far as cost to the town. You know, if we can get do something with the ambulance contract, there's plenty of other towns that are probably paying the same amount of money. They would like to reduce that amount as well, so.
And when are you gonna submit that again?
The last week of April, it's due April 30th. This is like the 4th round. They've had 3 rounds previously, so I've got the link to see all the previous submissions, so that's been helpful to kind of like get my bearings straight, you know, and get some laughs. Like some people are asking, like, I need $100,000 for a fire truck, and they say that has nothing to do with the innovation planning grant. You're denied. So, I mean, I get some good chuckles, but yeah. Also, there's some good information in there on, you know, because I can just kind of like pull from I can see if they've gotten awarded. So if I say, oh, they got awarded, they had a nice grant application, I can pull some stuff out of there, put it into mine, and just kind of like use that as like my basis. Then I can say, oh, let's craft it, but McMillan specific. So
When do you find out if we're awarded it or denied it?
I think they're moving pretty quick. So I would say I would bet before the end of June and probably even before the end of May. It seems like
They said May.
yeah, it seems like they're turning them over once a month because they've had cutoffs every month this year. So, and I don't think the last I knew they didn't have the innovation grant proper, even fully like structured. So even if we get the innovation planning grant, when the innovation grant is available for opening and how competitive that's going to be, I don't know. And so yeah, like I said, I feel like it's potential upside with no downside. I sent out to you guys the other day the USDA MARS, the Marshfield Area Agricultural Research Station, I think. We received a notice from them. They're planning a project that is subject to Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. Midwest Archaeological Consultants did a review and didn't find any historic properties within a half-mile of the project area. So this is just a notice that we received saying that we have the opportunity to participate in this Section 106 review. So if you want to as a body, or if you want to individually, be my guest. If you want to as a body, let me know, like pass a motion and say, let's get on the plan, but
I feel that it's in our township. We have to provide EMS and fire, we have to provide roads, and we get no tax dollars out of that. That's taxable property that was taken off the tax rolls. So I think we should at least have some input, and I think I told the board a couple of years ago, I visited up there and wanted to know when they built the new administrative building, whether there'd be some money available for roads to get there. And I don't see anything in here that says that, so. I mean, that's a direct impact on everybody that's sitting in this room, plus everybody that lives in this township. So I think we should put some skin in the game.
okay, I will, there was a contact person, so I'll email them and ask them, like, you know, if we want, I'll say, we want to participate, what's the next steps? And then I can circulate that information to you guys.
He's all the way into Chicago. He's on East Wacker Drive, to 800 in Chicago,
Yeah.
Illinois.
Because their land butts up against the county road, which is already with no weight limit on it, but every year, maybe not this year, Deb, but just about every year, they ask for exemptions so they can bring tractors in and they can do this and they can do that. If they're willing to up their road or the road in front of their place, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to give that grant or grant them their weight limit exemption if they put something into the game than just complain that there's always potholes in front of their gravel road. Well,
I guess that's what's
the
right.
gravel road's what they're paying for.
When we submitted the agricultural road project, I was surprised that Stod got picked instead of that one.
So was I. Because I figured that one would get it. Because it was considered an ag grant. You could submit two. That's just, we ended up with the one. You weren't gonna get one anyway.
Which begs the question,
Mm-hmm.
another issue on roads,
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple real soft spots that should be dug out this year. And
Yeah.
I think once we get the engineer involved in this, and get his.
On Stott, you're talking? Yeah. That corner's gotta be checked out too. The ditching down there is, the water's going in Mary's basement.
Still,
Yes.
I thought, did
They
the
cleared out,
97
they-
address that?
they came down and they cleaned out a little bit of an area, but they did not address that. So that was done many, many years ago.
It was done wrong for Mary when it was done.
Well, whoever did it,
Yeah,
they did it wrong.
yeah.
So she's ending up with, water in her
And
basement.
that was that when they widened and made the turn
I-
lanes? That's what was my
There were,
understanding.
no, it was before that even.
They
It
went
was,
when,
Okay.
it was when culverts were put in there at one point and it was put in wrong.
At 97,
Yeah,
the big ones,
yeah.
that carries everything, that
Yeah.
comes down Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, so that's, yeah, it's been a long, long time for her. So I was gonna have Jim look at
Yeah,
the ditching and all that good stuff when he gets over there, so.
well, he did that, and then he contacted the contractor that widened the road, and that should have taken care of it, because it.
But-
I don't think it's the, on the road right away, I don't think it's there. I think it's
Down on
between,
more on the property line.
it's more along the property line between her and Seaver, where there's a gully or ditch in there,
Mhm.
if you will, and I think it's in the need of being cleaned out so that the water runs through. And that was one of those things that was just done many years ago to get it, so it didn't have to go all the way out to 97 and then around the corner. They dug that, and I don't think it's been maintained.
No, they haven't done anything with it since.
Yeah.
Under the most.
And I think that's the problem there.
Yeah. But anyway,
Let's see, we have not heard back from Hush Blackwell, that's the law firm that, served me the papers on February 5th regarding the cell phone tower on Ken Harder's land. So, I'll let you know if I get contacted again, but I don't know, it kinda seems like they're just like, they've lost interest in chasing that.
how much was that, John? That
Uh,
they wanted,
Like $150,
I was
something
gonna
really
say
small.
pretty minimal.
Would it be every year then?
Yeah, that's the thing, is because I was trying to figure it out because they paid the service company mistakenly sent me the bill for the service fee, and it was like $210, and I was like, why are you guys saying this, why do I have to pay this? And they said, oh, sorry, you don't have to pay anything, this is us. So I couldn't figure it out, why are they paying $210 to serve me,
And recouping.
and they're only getting $150 as a negative benefit to them, but, you know, over 10, 15, 100 years, you know, why not? We received one zoning permit that was issued on Galvin, and that's the end of it.
Okay, checks to approve,
I'll move to approve checks 20616 through 20679 with electronic transfers of 250301 through 250313.
A second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Anything for budget? Nothing?
No, nothing on the road here or there.
Okay. Bank reconciliation?
You have that in front of you.
I'm getting it.
And take a notation of the change in the interest rates for the tax savings and the money markets has dropped from 4 to 1.5.
Oh, boy.
Which,
We melted as long as we could.
I know, but it still benefits zero, and that's what our tax, that's what our general checking account gets. So my thought was that maybe we should transfer the $591,973.16 that we received into the highway money market part, so that we get at least some interest off that money from Ann Road.
I was hoping for more like $550,000. We have, 600, as of today, we have $660,000 in the bank, and the checks in the packet were $78,000, so that gives us a little bit more of a flex buffer period.
I just would do it all, then you know what the number is, but normally we transfer out the tax savings for bills, so, and we've gotten our, transportation as a,
So it's easier to track it that way, is
well,
what you're saying?
that's the only reason I go for the full number. It's a little bit different, it's 40,000 difference, but you always want to remember what those numbers are if you do the whole thing, instead of splitting here.
So you want
Up
to
to you.
transfer for the $591,973.16?
It's up to you. So I'll have to.
And you want to transfer that from the checking account to the tax savings account?
No, to the highway fund,
Highway
the money,
fund.
the money market.
All right,
So
so we need a motion
Will
for
that
that.
be enough to keep it?
Well, if we take money out for pay bills, it should come out of the tax savings,
Right.
what we normally do.
Oh,
Right now, it's sitting in the checking, that's where it got deposited.
It's just
Yes,
automatic
that
transfer to checking.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we have enough money to cover bills, because.
Yeah, so I mean, if we transfer all 591, then I'd like to request the transfer of $40,000 from the tax savings.
It's tax savings, it's
Oh,
like we normally do.
I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so that you can
Okay,
follow
so
those
we
numbers
need a
over
motion.
time. Over time, you can follow those numbers over. Please,
All right,
it's up to you guys.
591 what?
591,973.16.
From checking to the highway.
Yes, into the 9838 highway money market.
Okay, and then
Second.
40 from the tax.
Is that a
saving
motion?
account.
Who made that? I can't make a motion. Did you make that motion, Dave?
Yeah.
We need a second on that motion.
I seconded it, I don't know who was first,
Okay,
but.
that's what I said.
Let John read it back.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've got a transfer of $591,973.16 from the main to the highway funds money market.
Does that dollar amount also include the $18,633.80 that the fire department EMS group got?
We're not there yet.
We're not.
just doing this grant right now.
We're not.
So I've got the motion maker as Dave and
And we got a second on that.
Yes. yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Okay, yeah.
So then the next motion,
Is,
We need.
for the 40?
Yeah, transfer $40,000 from the tax savings to the main.
okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Second.
second. Okay, David can second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. And what were you saying, Lauren?
$18,633.80, was that included in any of that transfer?
No.
Because we need to allocate that someplace.
Where is it right now?
Right
Checking
now,
account.
it's sitting in the checking account.
And
What was it, 18,000 what?
$18,633.80.
That would be the transfer. She's, I think what you're saying is get it in your budget.
Well, the group decided $16,235.72 should go into a vehicle replacement fund for vehicle 8, which we can do well within this funding assistance program because it is listed on one of the things that we can do with this
Yeah.
money.
You wouldn't put that money into a different account because the bill or whatever she's.
But if they're gonna save it for, 5 years, then it might make sense to, put it into a new account or CD or something.
Create one, you'd have to
Yeah.
create one. You
Yeah.
can't put it-
Create one.
Yeah.
What's gonna be the better bet, CDs? Because it's gonna be a while before you buy.
If we
a
can
new
hold it
vehicle,
next
you're not
month,
gonna
I'll have
enough
to
for
check
one.
and see if those CDs, I know some of the CDs, if you go 7 months for a little more money. So we could, when would you You don't know when the expenditure would happen, so
Right.
I would have at least 7 months.
You're probably looking at 4 years.
Yeah,
Okay,
But
yeah.
$2,398.08 has to be deposited into our EMS training line item because that is specifically for training and exam aid purpose only.
so she's she's saying add that to the budget money.
Correct.
So
So you have to
the
amend the
balance
budget.
is 16,435.
Can we do that all then next month?
Why can't you just expend, does it require you to have additional new spending that wasn't budgeted?
It shouldn't.
There was, in the award letter I gave you, the state set aside $2,398.08 specifically for training and examination aid for the EMS group.
But it doesn't say that it has to be new.
New
Budget
spending.
money.
In addition to what you budgeted.
So whatever you budgeted, if you budgeted 500, now that is funded by that money. $293 can be funded by that money.
Yeah,
You're just gonna take this money and put it in that same CD?
No.
Because I
No,
have,
that money is going to be in the revenue. You're saying it needs to go into an expense, and that's not, you can't do that. So like, I'm saying that it's going to be as a revenue of whatever, firefighter grant.
okay,
And then you're gonna report to them saying, oh yeah, we spent $293 on EMS training, and then we spent $16,000 and put it into a savings account for a new
I
fire
just
truck.
need to know because I have to report it out to the state at the end of the year where the money is and what we've done with it.
Yes, I mean, look
Well,
in
you're
the
gonna have all
line,
your
have you had any
and
training
budget
stuff
anyway, you
on
can
this?
use that instead of coming up with something new. You don't have to come up with anything new.
On page 3, it looks like $334.70 has already been spent on training and education, fire department education and consultation.
This would be EMS, so this would have to be fire.
Yeah, you have to look at the EMS budget for that because this is specific
And
to
have you done
EMS and
anything
not
yet this
fire.
year?
We got one in, first responder, or EMR right now, and then we did some CPR training.
Yeah, you budgeted 4,500, but nothing has been,
There should have been, because the CPR training should have came out of there for the fire department. And we have not gotten a bill from Midstate yet for our one in EMR yet.
Yeah, keep seeing that around.
What bill should have been charged there?
Instead of CPR training.
CPR for Midstate, I can, what was it? No, John, that shouldn't, that came out of last year's budget, I'm sorry. We did CPR in November of last year, that's,
But, yeah, I don't have any,
no, the only thing that should be coming out is the EMR expense, but we don't have that bill from Midstate yet.
Okay, Donna, check and see what you can find.
Yeah,
for
I'll look and
CDs.
see if we can receive these and, whatever I can find for next month's meeting,
Okay,
before you move any of that.
all right. Anything else on the financial?
Now, can we also circle back about the stair chair, that the group had voted to purchase?
And how much is it?
$2,195.
And that's from,
And
It's coming out of where?
there's $1,118 coming out of the Mutual Wassa Grant and Pop and Murphy's fundraiser, and then $1,077 coming out of EMS supplies.
And that was for,
A stair chair.
1,000 something came out of what? The first one you listed?
$1,000 Mutual Wassa grant was written for the stair chair. $118 fundraiser from Papa Murphy's was ear tagged for the stair chair. And the rest would come out of the EMS supply line item of $1,077.
yeah, but some of that is not even reported till next month because it was
I was gonna say.
$1,000 check just came in April, so we're dealing with March.
Yeah,
So that, yeah, that can all be
next month.
handled next month.
Yeah.
So that'll be in the deposits for next month.
I'm gonna tell you now, the stair chair is only on sale until the end of this month, and if we wait until May, we're gonna pay more than this
It'll
right
never
now.
go down. You want to purchase it, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to purchase it.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You done with the financial?
Yes, that's what I was on.
Okay. Cyber insurance renewal. We did discuss this, but we never made a motion on whether or not we were not going to do it or going to do it. So that's basically what we're looking at. Am I correct, John?
Yeah, so I ended up, since we didn't ever make a motion or anything, I went forward with the renewal questionnaire thing. They had sent me a quote for $36.60 for the year. Let me see if I can figure out how much we paid. I feel like last year we paid like $2,000 and some change.
Yeah, it's getting pricey.
And what benefit do you think it has for us?
I don't think any.
Yeah, I think for us it's pretty minimal benefit. You know, I don't feel like we're doing a whole lot of, we're not like, we don't have a computer network, we're not super computery here. So I think that the risks are fairly low. Like I said, the bigger risks are, like, big risks are probably like phishing attempts and stuff like that. But Donna's good at, like, you know, she sees something fishy, she'll come and check with me first and stuff. So I think we're pretty good there. I think we are benefited by having our independent systems, because then if Donna's computer does get infected or something, they can't corrupt my stuff.
Right.
We don't share any files, we don't share any systems.
Or vice versa.
Right, and then, like I said last month, for the case of ransomware, which I think is probably the bigger concern for a lot of folks, is that, you know, all of your data gets stolen or locked, you can't access it, and then they say, pay me Bitcoins, and then if you don't, then they'll destroy your data. But our data, my data, is backed up on a third party, is backed up every day, all continually to the Microsoft Cloud, and then it's backed up off of the Microsoft Cloud to a third party. So then if my Microsoft account gets compromised, it can be easily restored. I would lose hours of work, not days or weeks. So I think we're pretty safe there. Let me see if I can find the cost from last year.
I thought it was right around 2.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, $2,144.46. So it went up like, geez, 50%.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any claims with that.
No.
Nothing.
So I should go up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
understand minimal.
It's
but
the
not
risk,
like that.
it's the risk because there's so many more. It's just like our car insurances. I don't get into accidents, but my insurance keeps going up because the cars are more expensive and, you know.
Mhm.
Somebody else is getting in trouble.
Yeah, and, you know, so like, it's,
Spread the risk.
yeah. So I think that we are fine with, and another thing, like, there was limits. I thought the limits were all right. They were reasonable, like it was $1 million, but, you know, the deductible, so any claim, we have to pay the first $5,000 of expenses. So if it's just a real small thing, then, you know, we're not claiming it. If it's a humongous thing, if it's $1 million, then that's a big situation, but, you know, and I also believe that there's probably some overlap with our, regular insurance. I'm not quite sure what amount of overlap. I mean, we can have Marshall Insurance come and they'll tell you that it's not enough.
Mhm.
I don't know, I recall that they said that there was some, but they also said it wasn't enough. But,
Good insurance man. will
yeah,
always tell
insurance
you.
salesmen, I mean,
Yeah, there's
there's
never
never
enough.
enough insurance probably.
So are we proposing that we term the cyber insurance renewal?
Terminate it?
Yeah.
We need a motion.
So I move to terminate the cyber insurance renewal.
Second.
Any discussion? Think we had it all?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, fire department billing. Do we have a schedule in the ordinances on,
You do, it's for the engine, the tender, and
Some of the calls, wasn't it, or something?
it just had in there general that like $500 per hour for engine, so much for the tender, and there were like 3 things that were listed in there. And that all came about when Farm Tech Days was here, because that's what the ordinance was set up to do, was to build Farm Tech Days for us to sit there. And talking to Donna, in the past, we did charge for fire calls. I don't know when that fell off or why it fell off, no idea, there's really no track record as to when, who, what, where, whatever. About a year ago, you guys talked to me about setting up some type of fee schedule, so I reached out to my State Fire Chiefs Association and asked what theirs were. And this is kind of like the middle ground for everybody that's out there right now. And the basic reason this comes across you guys' desk to do is because if you want to do the state fire claim on highways for accidents, the fire department has to submit a bill to the township, and the township itself has to bill that individual.
right,
And you have to make 3 attempts to collect before we can submit any paperwork to the state to get our $500 from the state.
right.
So that's kind of where that came about.
So you would get it to John or Donna or whoever.
The fire department would make out a bill,
Yeah.
and we would send it to either treasurer or clerk, whoever wants it. I would say treasurer
I
probably.
believe the treasurer does it, but
I can put money.
And then from there, she would generate the bill for the resident from the township.
right.
And if the resident doesn't pay,
You send it 3 times.
You send it 3 times, and if they don't pay, then we can fill all the paperwork out to get reimbursed $500 for that accident on any highway or road that gets state aid.
Yeah, 197, we can state so that if any of it didn't pay.
So you're looking at 1,500 per accident.
That was the middle ground that I found out of everybody who replied to my question.
I think most insurance companies, there's a $500 on their insurance, what they'll pay. That was always why we were at 500 years ago, was because if you look at that, they'll pay 500 out, but they don't.
Because the state itself only pays 500. That's it.
Right.
Yeah. So don't you have to have certain equipment also?
We have to have fire apparatus, and that's on every scene.
Okay.
But she's talking about
I thought you had brought it
And a
up
hose
at one
line.
time that you gotta pull a hose or something.
Yep, and we do have to pull a hose
Yeah.
line if necessary on that call.
Okay.
and then what if it's, like, I'm just gonna use the second alarm example here. We send out a bill for $100, the resident doesn't pay. We send them to collections then, after so long too?
Yes.
We can. But like I say, their insurance is gonna pay 1,500.
Well, like I said, that was the middle ground for the questions that I had put
Well,
out
also we're
there.
gonna have a deductible anyway.
Yeah, it's not gonna be
So-
anywhere near that.
So are you suggesting that change, Donna, that number?
I think it should go down a little bit.
Yeah, I think that, that's pretty high. That means $1,000 will come out of your pocket.
Yeah.
If you have a fender bender, the same thing's gonna happen. If they have a small fender bender out there on 97, on any road, this applies to any road in our township. So if we have a fender bender within the town, you know, and your insurance company pays 500, because that's what's on your policy, you have to come up with 1,000 because somebody bent your fender. So, you know, I'm concerned that that's pretty steep.
That's like.
But I understand what they're saying, because they're required to take an engine and pull a hose.
And if there's extrication, we've got extrication tools that we need to
Depends
take
on,
out
yeah,
and use.
then that's a whole different size of a.
It looks like some places have like a $500 for standard response,
Mhm.
and then additional charges for like extrication. So like,
If required.
looks like town of Crescent charges $1,000 more. for
So it depends
extrication.
on the accident is what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
it would.
Yeah, so like any accident, it's $500.
Yes,
And then depending on the level of, if they gotta get
yes.
6 people out, or 6 cars, whatever.
Then she would have that on her list that she had manpower and she had
Right.
extrication and she had.
But that would all show up listed itemized on the bill that would be submitted to the township.
Kind of like the $500.
500 and then with the exception.
Yeah, that's kind
With
of,
the addition.
yeah, if needed.
Yeah. And so if there's 2 vehicles involved, each person would get
Bill.
billed, right?
Correct.
Yep.
That is my understanding. I think we would have to bill both people,
Mhm.
Yeah.
not just one.
Right.
No. I'm just saying, I'm a professional, I've been a professional debt collector for 25 years.
So it goes to,
You might send the bill to both, but it's the same 500. So
Right,
if one
right.
pays it, the other doesn't. You're not getting 500 for each.
right.
My advice would also be, just personally, having collected on this stuff for years, bill the higher amount. If someone gets an offender vendor, it sucks to be that person that gets that larger bill, especially if it's not their fault.
Mhm.
Their insurance might cover that first 500, which it will, which is typical for most insurance companies.
Mhm.
But if that other person's at fault, their
Insurance will
which is
pay
based
for
on
the
the
rest.
police report,
We've
their
never,
insurance will pay that other 1,000.
Right, because when we submit this to the state, I do have to call, I have to have open records request for the sheriff's department report on the accident to go along with all the paperwork.
so there should be a determination as to who's at fault on there to begin with.
Nope, that's for
No.
them to sort out
That's for them to
afterwards.
sort out.
You don't need to do that.
But then you're double dipping, you're getting $500 out of 2 people. We never did that, so.
So how did you bill it before?
How did you determine the billing?
Fire department, well, I didn't determine it, the fire chief did.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what it was, if somebody ran down in the ditch and we were called out for that, it's one party. If there was 2 parties, he determined, I don't know how he made his determination, whether it was the officers in place or whoever determined it, it came to me as one. It never came to me where I billed both. If there were 3 cars, you would bill out $1,500 worth, that's a minimum. Plus expenses. To me, it's, how do you do that? You guys do what you want to do, but, I don't know how you would make that determination.
I think a little more research needs to be done into this.
We were playing with this for a year already.
I understand that, but
I
Yeah.
think you could bill it, I think it's pretty clear that it's always the one in the back, right? How is that?
Yeah, but what if there's a deer and then both vehicles hit the deer? Like,
That's happened too.
I know, like,
Yeah.
how do you, it's the deer's fault, but, I mean, what do you do?
If you get into an accident anyplace else, both parties are at fault, at least a minimum amount anyway.
Percentage-wise.
On
Yes.
50/50 or whatever the percentage is. Not double.
And maybe that's what we do, we say, if it's standard accident and there's 2 vehicles involved, they get split it, I don't know. I don't know the right answer.
What'd you say that is, Eddie?
For which, I got confused where all the back and forth was.
You said you work for a collection company, okay? Why wouldn't the town be able to bill both of them?
You
If
can
they're
bill,
both involved in the accident?
you can bill both, but you're billing for, that vehicle shows up and they pull that hose. They didn't pull it twice, it wasn't 2 vehicles.
Oh, I
You
see
can't
what
bill
you're
2
saying.
people for
Okay.
the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can't double.
So then, would it make sense to use the police report if they have in there,
If they declare an at fault.
if they declare an at fault, then we would bill
Yes.
who the person at fault is?
Yes,
But
but what
if
she
they
had said
don't-
before, we can't determine that.
No, it's not up
Yeah,
to us to
yeah.
determine that. That's up to the police
And
officers or
some of them
whatever.
that I billed years ago, when the bill went out, if it didn't belong to the party that we assumed was at fault and went, we usually got a notification that it was gonna go into litigation of some kind, and when that was determined, that's when we got it.
Okay.
Then it was paid when they made the determination as to who was at fault and which company, insurance company was
So
gonna
then
pay.
technically we could bill both and then it would be up to the insurance
No.
companies.
No.
No,
No, you can only bill
we
one.
bill one. No. And then if it's not them, then we'll get a notification from their insurance company. that it
But every
belongs-
accident is going to have an accident report,
That's
Correct.
correct.
so,
At the county, yes.
yeah.
And I think that's what John always determined.
And that has to, and that report has to be submitted with the state stuff, because I had to do an open records request for this
Mhm.
one that I did to get the police report to send along with it,
So why don't we just base all the accidents off that
Off the-
report?
off of the
Yeah.
police
Yeah,
report.
and then,
And
Who's
then-
at fault or who has insurance?
Well, you.
Well, if they don't have, yeah, if they don't, if they did say who's at fault, we can only bill one, bill the one with the insurance company, because they'll either pay it or they'll deny it, and then we know we gotta go after the other part. If you go after the one with no insurance, they're gonna throw it in the drawer, and you
You're
won't
not
get
gonna
anything.
see anything anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
well, that's what's happened so many times, that we go after it and it doesn't get paid.
So then the party that gets billed for the accident is who the police,
Yeah.
is in the report as determining at fault.
Yep, that's the way it was. And then that's on any road, town road, I mean, any road within our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
We're a taxed entity for a department.
What?
We are a taxed entity. We, as a citizen, pay for prior and accident insurance.
Yeah,
So now we're going to become a,
it's no different
Business?
than us having the ambulance, or the ambulance service. We're paying
yeah,
for the
we
service.
pay for
And then
that.
you're gonna get billed for it anyway after that. That's just how it
That's
works.
the way it works.
But I mean, I'm looking over this list, $10 burning permit,
No, we're just looking at the accidents at this point.
Whenever I was asked to create
it's
this
all
list,
attached.
Yeah.
when
I
I
know.
was asked to create the list, I was asked for everything, and that's what I did. And they decided to only do the motor vehicle accident.
Right. Yeah, we're not looking at the rest of that, we're just looking at the accidents at this point.
so are we leaving it at 1,500 or are we changing it?
500, I think,
5, and then if more
with
equipment is needed.
exceptions, with
Yeah.
that, and
I mean,
whatever
you might
those
need
might be.
equipment on one vehicle, and then you might need it on the other vehicle, so how do you
She'll
handle
know
that?
that, and
Right.
she'll notify me as to what, so when we bill out, they'll bill
Okay.
accordingly.
So we need a motion.
So do we need the additional amount for the manpower, the extrication, and the vehicles? Like, do we need to know that?
I think that isn't there something in the ordinance for that?
Is that up to date though? I mean, that's 10 years old, prices have changed.
You guys might wanna look at it, because in the ordinance, I think it's like $500 an hour for the engine and $2 something.
It was like $17 per,
we just start off with a
Here.
flat fee.
So.
It's 500 more than we had before, and then
Yeah.
In the ordinance, it is $250 per hour for the
make it easy
engine,
for people.
$150 per hour for the tender, $75 per hour for the rescue, and $17 for manpower.
yeah. So let's just start with 500, see how it goes. At the end of the year, we can revisit it, or after 6 months,
We may not
revisit
even
it.
have enough to even worry about, think about.
Yeah, you can,
After 6 months? We should have a good enough buffer.
good accident report?
I mean,
Yeah.
In 6 months, 6 months, you won't even probably hear back from anybody yet.
Hopefully you don't
Oh,
have
no,
any prices.
yeah,
yeah, but we'll know like, well, okay, fine, we can do a year, but,
yeah.
I mean, there was 4 EMS calls this last month, mutual aid.
But then
These
no
are
accidents.
1050s.
There's no
That's not
1050s.
like EMS calls.
We're talking
That's
about
fair. So then they would be, I guess,
car accidents.
These are just 1050s.
Car accidents,
yeah.
yes.
I was just thinking, yeah, then 6 months wouldn't be enough.
Figure a year.
Okay, a year,
So just
Well, we can bring it back anytime.
yeah.
If you have a question, you'll,
place $500 across the board, no extra for manpower or anything.
we can revisit that in 6 months and see if it's needed.
I just wanna make sure, so when
So
I start
500.
doing this. I
Yeah,
know I-
500.
Yeah, 500.
Okay.
But we need a motion.
I move to approve for motor vehicle accidents and motor vehicle fires, $500 flat fee across the board.
With exceptions.
What exceptions?
She's.
First, we need a second. She can always change it. Okay,
I'll-
and what exceptions?
Well, what were the things that you were just talking about?
Extrication, but they're gonna do that.
We're gonna wait for a year roughly.
We'll wait for a whole year for
And
that.
if we see that it's needed, we can always bring it back.
Yeah, okay.
So
All in
leave it as
favor,
is.
say aye.
I'm gonna ask one more thing here before we go on. And the only reason I'm doing this is because of what Dorothy had brought up. If you also throw in car fires, if you have a car fire that is in your driveway, that's not on a roadway, so are you billing them $500 then? Or because,
It says roadway fire
In
right on
parentheses,
there.
oh, it does,
says
okay.
roadway
Okay, I
fires.
guess I'm not
So
following the right.
the driveway don't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's specific to roadway
Says
fires.
roadway fires,
All right.
yeah. So are we just doing that, or
This time.
what about the rest of the?
We're not
things?
doing any of that. None of that, no.
Okay.
So let's vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, set dates for board of review and open book. John, what do you got?
Let's see, so, I talked to Beth, because it's a reval year, she would like to, meet to adjourn, the board of review. So I proposed May 21st at 6 PM. Board of review will convene and then immediately adjourn. And then on July 23rd, from 10 AM until 6 PM, open book would occur. Beth said that she is the only one that needs to be there present for that, so she just needs to get in here, and then people can come in, do what they want to do. And then August 13th at 6 PM would be Board of Review, from 6 to 8.
Okay, so what was in May?
May 21st is
At
what?
6
Board
o'clock.
of Review, but it's only to meet to adjourn. That's what she
Okay.
called it, so we're gonna gavel in, gavel out.
Yeah,
Because you have to, you're required to have it at a specific
Oh,
Yes,
I
at a
time
see.
certain
period of
time.
the year.
so number one was when
May 21st at 6 PM.
to do that.
Yep.
Okay, then the second one.
Second one is,
We don't have to attend.
But that's,
No, it'll go on.
I will get clarification from Beth. I think that we might need the quorum
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
one.
So July 23rd, what time?
July 23rd is 10 AM to 6 PM. That's open book.
Normally, we didn't have to have anybody here.
We don't have to, none of the board has to be here.
from what time to what time?
10 AM
Till when?
to 6 PM. She's the one that said
The
it.
open book?
She's the one that, she's the
You're
one that
not
said
there.
it. And she said that she wants it because of the reval.
Right. I'm
She
sure
said
that's
sometimes-
Oh, that's why she wants us there.
No, you guys
No,
don't have to be
no.
there. She's gonna be there the whole day.
Want to be there.
And she said that sometimes they're out the door and sometimes nobody shows up. So I said,
Okay.
if you wanna do that, just bring a book, whatever.
Because normally it was just a couple hours at the most.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
I
you've got a full
suggested 6 to 8 on all
Yeah.
these, so
So a lot of
she's the
people
one
don't
that said,
understand
let's bump it up, and I said,
Wow,
I don't,
that's a long day.
as long as it's just you, I don't.
Yeah,
You gotta let her in.
Okay, yeah.
And then, August 13th, 6 PM, Board of Review, so that's a quorum of the board.
Yes, okay.
What was it, the August, what, 16th?
August 13th, 6 PM.
And that one we need to be at?
A quorum
Yes.
has to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Quorum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's one where they have complaints, then they.
yes, and Dave and I.
Do we need a motion for that, or are we good with just saying this is what it's going to be?
Yeah, that would be fine with me, if you guys all agree. If that's cool with you, then
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah, we
start
got it.
getting the
We
word
got
out.
it.
I'll mention it tomorrow at the annual meeting, put it on Facebook, put it on the website,
Yeah,
get everyone in the know.
Okay. All right, garage heaters.
geez, I thought we were done.
One more thing. We had 3 quotes, one from Tri-Cities, which was $12,800, one from Steeny's at $95.20, and one from Rigel at $74.27. And I'll make a motion to approve the one for $74.27 from Rigel Plumbing.
A second.
Can I say something?
Yes, you can.
Read page 1 of Tri-Cities, and then you might want to decide.
I was just gonna say, what's the difference here between,
Read the page 1 of Tri-Cities quote here. And I'm gonna tell you that back garage where the heater's going, those doors don't open that much, so you might wanna reconsider what you're gonna put back there. You could probably go with the forced air unit. Just read it first before I say any more.
I read it, and that was my motion. I think, I can, you know, I'd like to replace it with what's already in there, so we heat the object.
I'll second it and discuss it then, whatever.
And you wanted what, red? The Tri-County one?
Well, read the Tri-City one, you don't have to look at the quote or anything, it's just look at the pros and cons of it. Of
Radiant
both
heat.
systems.
Radiant heats the objects and anything in the garage, including the slab. If the
Okay.
door is open with the objects warm, when the door is closed, it will seem warmer sooner as the objects are still warm. The unit heater option has a more efficient burn at 95%, but it's heating air, not objects. So when the doors are open, the air leaves and the cold air comes in, and the unit will run to warm the air back up.
Okay, and the next sentence?
I would suggest if the doors are open and closed, often option one is the best option. If they are only open a couple times a day, then the unit heater will most likely be a little more efficient.
During the heating season, those doors back there are rarely open. The only time they're open is when the tractor needs to go out to load salt during the heating season. That's what I'm saying. You could save yourself in gas that would, it would pay for itself.
Between Tri-City and Rigel is what you're saying.
Any one of them. Well, actually not between Tri-City and Rigel, you're talking between Tri-City and Steenie, because Rigel quoted the radiant heat.
Okay.
You'd be talking about a forced air system here instead of radiant.
Rigel quoted a.
Rigel quoted the radiant.
Right.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is if you read that, they're saying if the door isn't open that much, which it isn't, it would make sense to go with the forced air unit.
But you do run the plow truck and out of that too, though, so I mean,
That, you've
it's
got,
like it's rarely open.
you've got
it's-
the radiant heat in that front part where the plow truck goes in and out. You're heating the back garage, the very back garage.
I really don't.
All I'm saying is I wanted to replace it with what was there.
Well, upgrading sometime isn't a bad thing either, if that's, you know.
Next, we're not upgrading, we going backwards again. Because that's what we had in there originally.
Right.
Well,
Forced air.
also, if you read the quote, the rest of the quote, the very last page of Tri-Cities, they're gonna replace the reflectors also, because, just read it. Reflectors are part of the system too. Either way you go,
We have a motion and a second. So
Yeah,
now,
and everybody's still reading because I just looked over that. So, does anybody have any questions?
So how is Tri-Cities different than Rigel? Because Rigel's saying replace
There you
radiant
go.
tube system in the truck garage.
Riegels isn't replacing the reflectors, Tri-City is, and if you read it, there's a reason why they're replacing the reflectors. The reflectors are part of that heating system, and if you read the old ones, which are dirtier than snot right now, it's not gonna operate efficiently, which is what Rigel is doing, is replacing just the tubes and reusing the shields. So you're losing efficiency right there.
Oh, I see. So what if we get a new quote from Rigel asking, Yeah, and let's see what that would be.
If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it right, you know, all the way through. You're spending that much money. Stuff like that.
I mean, we've been going with that back one shut off or shut down to 45 since we
Well,
found
if
the
the
problem with it, so
the same.
it's not gonna hurt.
It's
They're
the
gonna save money.
same thing. So we're getting it replaced properly and not, you know, hitting
That's
it.
fine with me, I can.
Yeah.
Want me to tell?
Yeah, if you want to.
Well, I think that would be helpful, just so that we can
So we can compare apples to apples.
Thanks. So,
I mean, we figure he's gonna come in under anyway, because, I mean, we're having a board meeting with the numbers up here.
Have you got that down, or we have to rescind the motion for the study?
I have the motion that was made to,
But we didn't act.
accept the vice motion, but there was just discussion.
No action taken?
So no action.
Okay, then I'll come back with the reflectors.
and motion to adjourn.
There we go.
So moved. Any second?
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is over.
Those receiving checks, please don't be.
I know.
Eddie, did I talk to you?
Absolutely.
I got a question.
Yeah.